Rev up your engine! Okay, here we have a 2017 Acura MDX. The guy just bought it. Now, why did he buy it? Well, he actually wanted a Lexus, and if you check this out, it's kind of funny. It's an MDX, but his license plate says TSX. Now, he couldn't find a Lexus used that he could buy anywhere, and he found this used. So, he bought this. They're just number 2 compared to the equivalent Lexus. It's the first real Acura that had 3 rows of seats. He's got them down now, but there's seats in the back. Now, mind you, the back one's only good for small children or small dogs, but as they grow, I guess, you move them up, you know? It's the second best-selling SUV in its size after Lexus. They have quite a few similarities, and then we open the hood, and they both have V6 engines. Now, the only difference is, of course, for some reason, Honda and Acura are weird. And these V6 engines, a lot of them clean, they still have rubber timing belts in them. I mean, they run perfectly fine, but they are interference engines. So if the timing belt breaks, there goes the engine. Now, they tell you to change them every 100,000 miles, but truth be told, I've seen them with a couple 100,000 miles. They were never touched, and the belt was still working. But if you're one of those worry-wart people, pay somebody to change the timing belt and the water pump and the pulleys every 100,000 miles, and you'll never have to think about it again. But I've never seen one break that early. Anyways, it's kind of a conservative thing. If it was a Lexus, this age, it would have a timing chain on it, and you wouldn't even have to think about it. Or if it was like an early RX 300, it would have a rubber timing belt, but it wasn't an interference engine. So if it broke, it didn't hurt anything. So then you're not gambling anything. He's not gonna have to think about this for quite some time. Kind of an annoying engineering thing from my standpoint, you know? Why didn't they go to change like everybody else did? And they got the car because they're having kids and they needed more room. Plus, this has a lot of surround cameras. And they moved from Texas to Massachusetts. He said his wife needs all those cameras because of the insane drivers in Massachusetts. I found that out myself. They called them masshole drivers for a reason. You want to see all around to see what those lunatics are up to. 2017 doesn't need any work. Everything works, of course. AC, power steering, everything's still original on it. We're gonna go through a scan, but first thing we're gonna do, we'll start it up. Very smooth sounding car. It's a nice setup between the entertainment and the Acura readout on the top. You can look all around different areas. It's a phenomenal setup. So you get to see all around, especially if you got something that's, for some people, it's a relatively big car. You can see all around to see if you got any problems. Wheeling out the front, we'll look at the sides. And we got the back and the sides. Hey, pretty cool setup. And if you forget where you're looking, just look down there. That's the front, and that's both sides. Now, immaculately comfortable seats. These things are really comfy. Stylish looking. Of course, it's got a sunroof. Everybody wants a sunroof. Usual with Acura, Honda products. Their all-wheel drive system is phenomenal. You can have it normal mode, dynamic mode. You can play around with this thing all you want. The touch of a button. We push this, sport. We're gonna drive it sport. I want to see what it's like sporty. I like the sporty mode. It's got lane assist. High-tech car. There's no arguing that. And it's got a beautiful black and chrome interior. So let's get the scan tool out. Got the scan tool hooked up. Some diagnostics. And we're waiting to hook up. You can see it's only got 64,000 miles. It's a baby. It's not even broken in yet. The electric parking brake, I'm not a fan, but most vehicles are that way. You can turn the automatic shut off, which I would always do because I find it annoying. Plus, every time you turn it on and off, the engine's getting engine wear. Shutting it off. Turn it on. Stupid idea. Turn it off. My advice. Add the VIN. And it's USA model. 2017 Acura MDX. Yes. And soon we'll start the scan. We'll do an all-system scan. You can see these things do have a lot of room. They're family friendly. That's why he bought it. Like I said, he wanted a Lexus, but he couldn't find one in his price range used. So, a million buttons to play with. And check it out, baby. You got cold hands? This has heated steering wheel, too. And it is warm. He had it on. The Elephant God. Hey, that's cool. It's whipping through stuff here. Got a few faults here. Some of them probably are problems that it had that somebody messed with and never reset anything. So we'll see what happens with that. It's 100% done. Now, all the main things are perfectly fine. But multi-camera system, integrated driver support, those have little problems. So we'll start with the integrated driver. Dust or dirt on the wave radio. Internal electric failure. Now, I see these faults all the time. You know why? People don't keep their cars clean enough. Okay? You gotta clean this off. Look at the dirt on there. The sensors have dirt on them, or trips a code for there's dirt on the sensor. So find out where your sensors are, In this case, it's in the middle, but they're all over the place. And clean them with some Windex once in a while, or you'll get all these stupid codes. And sometimes it'll make your cruise control act funny. Guy brought one the other day, and the only problem was that code. And I said, yo, you got this code because your sensor's dirty. He says, I was wondering why my cruise control once in a while would act a little funky. It's because the sensor was dirty. You got to keep a clean car these days. So we'll erase these codes and clean the sensor. The multi-view camera system, it has faults too. Probably the same ones. Lost communication with AT CVT system detected by gauge control module. We'll erase those too. Because at some time, this car's had the battery changed. A lot of times you got to reset stuff. People don't reset them, and you get these weird codes. Look at body electrical code. Probably more of these squirrely little codes. And yes, it's more of these squirrely communication codes. Yes, codes, more communication failure, low voltage. See that all the time. Now all the codes erased, they're all gone. And we'll take it for a little spin after we look at live data. So we'll start it up and we'll go back to live data. We can see the charging system's good, 14.15 volts. We have sensors normal. And you can see the air fuel control. It's almost perfect, 1.01. Then 0.98, it's going between 0.98, 1.0, 1.00 is perfect, so it's pretty close to perfect. Now the fuel trim, hey, it's only 1.1. 0 is perfect, so it's only off 1.1%. It's absolutely nothing. Now these are fancy engines, have all kinds of stuff in it. You can see the oil control, solenoid control when you're going from cylinder deactivation. You can check all that system if you have to. You can see the catalytic converters are almost exactly the same temperature, 296.7, 297, almost exactly the same, so they're running perfectly. See it at 6 cylinders, and out of all 6 cylinders, 3 of them have only one misfire, just one, that's it, just one. Now normally it's going to be 0, but I'd say you might as well change the spark plugs on this thing, you know, I mean, going to be 7 years old this year. What the heck, change the spark plugs. Eventually you got to change a few things on them, you know, because as you can see here in the preliminary data, there's only 3 misfires, and that's out of, you know, a really long time. But when you go to the secondary data, there's no misfires at all, any of them. So it's a very minor problem. And then the other cycling, there's 0 there too. So I'm being nitpicky here, you know. You only feel it, he didn't feel it. So 7 years old, you might as well change the spark plugs. They're still the original ones. See, the air fuel imbalance measurement is 0 on both banks, meaning that they're perfectly balanced. It's running fine. So let's take it for a spin. And away we go in sport mode. Get a little more zip over the bump. It's a big bump. You're going to feel it in any car, but it went over and didn't drag. Now I have it in sport mode, so it'll ride a little bit rougher, but it'll handle better, and that's what I like. We're going to ride it a little rough just to see if any of these codes come back. On the automatic stop off because I hate it. It just stopped itself. I don't like it, so I just turned it off. Realize you got to turn it off every time you start the car. Then it'll stay up until you shut it off again. A circle automatic shut off. Turned on so you know it's turned off. And it won't shut itself off because I find it annoying. And here we go. Gets up and goes. Smooth transmission, lots of power. Just do realize you're gonna drive this thing. It's a heavy all-wheel drive vehicle. You're not gonna get the greatest gas mileage. He said he gets in the higher teens in town and he might get 22, 23 on the highway. Which is kind of funny because I had an RX 300 over here before this and he got over 30 miles a gallon on the highway, and it was an older car. Now, it didn't have the horsepower this thing has by any stretch of the imagination, but it did get better gas mileage, and they were both all-wheel drive. The sport mode really takes off, but let's play with the mode. Let's put on comfort, and indeed, the bumps aren't as bad. It is smoother. This is active suspension system on this thing, and it does work quite well. So maybe your wife wants smooth rides, but you want to drive like a maniac. Well, this is the SUV for you. Extremely smooth idle. These are luxury SUVs. And really, once you take it out of the dynamic sport mode, it does ride a lot smoother. Won't handle quite as tight, but it will ride a lot smoother. You get a better ride, but when you want to go, hey, it still goes. You step on the gas. Thing's got response. There's no arguing that. Now realize they're not giving these things away. Bought this thing used, 35 grand. You got to pay money for these things. You're not giving away. But he couldn't find a Lexus in that price range. He just couldn't find one. So we're heading on back and we'll see if any of these codes came back. We'll see what the magic machine's gonna say. And we'll do an auto scan again. And as you can see, we're going through the system. None of the codes came back. 100%, no codes anywhere. So a lot of those are just BS communication codes. So there you have it. Now the guy wanted a Lexus, but he got an Acura. He's happy with it. He couldn't find one in that price range in a Lexus, so he got an Acura. They got tons of bells and whistles too. They are the second best-selling ones after the Lexuses, so it's not a bad choice, especially when you're going used. You can only take what's out there for sale. You can't walk in a dealer like a new one, I want this. You got to take what's out there, and in this case, hey, it was a good decision. It's a nice car. They're definitely zippier to drive than the Lexuses are. Now you get a little bit worse gas mileage because of that zippiness and the fact that it's all-wheel drive system, but hey, it's not all that difference. And you want a safe family driving in a nice vehicle, hey, there's nothing wrong with these things really. Except for me, the price, because 35 grand. I've spent 7,500 bucks on every car I've ever personally owned. And I've been driving for 55 years, so I'm a cheapskate. I'd buy this thing maybe when he's done with it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.